Love, light, positivity. Hi, people. Pleasure to be here on YouTube. Again, actually, I'm back again, which is a short but sweet little test. But also for people who may or may not watch me on Facebook, this is more likely where I'm going to be streaming to. Before I stream, generally, I will put a link up in Facebook with an approximate time as to when I plan to go live. For those people joining me, welcome. Um, for those people who join later, welcome. I'm not here to be a celebrity. I'm not here to necessarily be entertaining. This is about things which I think are incredibly important. My opinions, my thoughts, maybe some solutions along the way. Are very much political, but I'm very much in the band camp. Just to give some notion on my politics, I am very left leaning. I despise capitalism. And before I get people in the comments, but you will please comment, right? But before I get people in the comments saying, "Oh, there's no other system," it's like, yeah, but the system we're currently operating doesn't work either. Yes, it works for a good number of people, but we are leaving people off at the end. Those people are starving. Those people are not able to get clean water, or are going thirsty, or dying of thirst. Those people haven't got access to healthcare. Those people haven't got access to shelter. On top of that, we have issues which we've been facing for many years, millennia even. But we are now going to war for profit, and not just us, but that's global. There's no two ways about it. What Putin's doing is a resource management game. What Israel is doing is just cuntish, in my opinion. Oops, that's me demonetized. But I'm not worried about monetization. This is not what I'm here for. Every little bit helps, but this isn't. It'd be nice to think that this could become a platform under which I can make a living. That would certainly offset other things, but and that's not what I'm here for. There are so many things in the world right now that are causing me alarm and distress, and I think that's going to be true of a lot of people. It feels to me that we are on the brink of a world war, potentially. Not necessarily the nuclear Armageddon, which we're so looking forward to. But I dislike that in itself. We have been. Certainly myself, I was born in the 80s, so I was born in 1980. Oh my God, please don't socially engineer me. But to put it out there, yeah, I was born in 1980. So I'm now coming up to 45. Now, I think probably from about the age of 6 or 7, I was aware of global thermonuclear war being a potential. And I remember living in pretty much fear of that happening any minute, and sort of have done for most of my life. It's got easier as I've got older. Um, but I would say probably from about the age of 8 or so, I was aware that the United States had already dropped atomic bombs in Japan. I was aware of the Enola Gay, blah, 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 blah. Not necessarily to the level of understanding that I have now, but it's a hell of a set of historical events to put on the shoulders of my generation, and then we have to put that on the shoulders of the next generation. We have my generation as the next generation and the generation before, like a big ball of problems, okay, which we've inherited. And yes, my generation, the generation before us, managed to solve some of that complex ball of Rubik's Cube, but we managed to mess up other sections, and then we are stuck with passing that on to the next generation. I personally don't think that we can, or we should be going on in this world feeding off hate. It shouldn't be a case of I don't like the brown person, or I don't like the foreign sounding person. They're people. This is humanity. This is the world. It's a spit of sand by comparison to the rest of the universe. It saddens me and it sickens me to my core that we would turn our back on people because they're not of the same color, creed, religion, sexuality, blah, 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 blah. That being said, I'm all about inclusivity, particularly in terms of my channel, in order to be able to put my opinion across, because I don't want to sit here and say that because you have a different set of opinions to me, that you are, I don't want to insult you. I don't want to insult your intelligence. I might privately and openly think that if you think this way or that way, that you, it's not that you're thick, it's not that you're stupid, but that maybe, just maybe, you have been overly influenced. And same could be said for me, but overly influenced by the right wing or more right leaning parrots, mouthpieces, media. I would use the term brainwashing, but that seems like an insult in itself. Because I think ultimately we elect how we perceive the world and then what we parrot on. And again, when I'm talking about parroting, if this person has said that, or this media outlet has said that, and I then push that narrative on, I am also a parrot, right, to that original narrative. And that happens on any side of any fence, given any particular issue, topic, etc. But what I don't want to do is marginalize people that have an opinion. So anybody coming to my channel, listening to what I'm saying at any given time in relationship to what I think about Israel, what I think about America, what I think about the United Kingdom, what I think about Ukraine, what I think about China, what I think about North Korea, what I think about South Korea, what I think about Japan, should I list off every single country in the world, Tibet, Australia, New Zealand, wherever my focus happens to be and whatever issue I'm picking up on, I would like to ask anybody in the comments to, by all means, express your opinions, even if it's not something which I agree with. I would ask other people to please do your best to not be offensive or dismissive of other people's opinions. Challenge other people's opinions by all means. I say try to educate people. It's not even an educate, because again, that sounds like a slight. But put your opinion across. I think that regardless of which side of a fence you sit on any given issue, if you go down the path of insults, it's not part of an argument at that stage. You have effectively lost the argument the second you go down that route. Each to your own. But that's what I would ask from like comments. Feed in, feed out. Even if you see, I'm very much fundamentally, I think we should have unequivocal freedom of speech, regardless of how abhorrent that speech may be to another listener, to another reader, etc., etc., etc. If we allow our freedom of speech to be eroded further and further and further and further, it is in effect taking potential power away from everybody. That's not the way to go. If you want to be on this side, which happens to be my right, and you're like, I don't like immigrants, I don't like gays, I don't like transsexuals, I don't like whatever, fine. I am happy for you to say that and voice those opinions. If you're on the left and you're saying things like, I don't like Nazis, I don't like fascism, I don't like cruelty, whatever it happens to be, and that is true probably on both sides, right? Some things, again, we should be free to voice that. I've got to be careful, because what I'm going to say next is, technically in the UK at the moment, if I was to show support for Palestine action through this video or other content, I could face 14 years in prison. Unlikely, but I could. And let me put it this way. We should not be in a position where you cannot show support for anything. show support. There's a difference between showing support and actively funding or supporting the direct action of various groups. You see, direct action on that level, on that note, you see, we as a people are being pigeonholed into a situation or set of scenarios where protest is becoming more and more difficult and policed. What we say and how we address the public in relationship to the point we're trying to get across or the changes which we're asking for has been and is being made more and more difficult. Now, on this one, I care what side you sit on because I'm interested to hear people's comments. Myself personally, I support Palestine, right? In terms of the majority of that population who are not complicit in murder or torture, kidnapping, crimes, basically. I do not support Israel, okay? In terms of, I mean, again, I support the majority of Israelis, right? In terms of within the confines of Israel as it stands at the moment, that is your land. Fucking deal with it. Have a defense force to defend, not to go into another country and start committing genocide. Those are my thoughts. Those are my opinions. Now, I know that this is a potential global audience. So there are going to be potentially people from Israel, people from all around the world who share a different viewpoint. I am condemning actions on any side that lead to death and suffering of anybody, regardless. And that's regardless of which particular war we're talking about. The reason why it goes without saying for me, that is humanitarian. That is humanity. What absolutely puts the simmer on the boiling point of my piss is the actors within that theatre are operating for financial or resource or both gain and power ultimately. The people are then either following that or are opposing that. It is dangerous territory when we stop opposition regardless. We should always be able to go down a path of mediation or diplomacy, ultimately democracy. We have, for the most part within the world, we are no longer dealing with tribal war and tribal warfare. It still happens. No, what we're dealing with is mobilized military industrial complexes profiteering off the death of other people. As I say, I think we need to come together right fucking now as a people and take the power back as peacefully as possible to basically take the power back. I know as if it's as easy as that. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. Nothing in life is easy. I would like to be able, I will, and I would like to be doing a lot more than sitting on my backside talking to a camera to put my voice across. I'm one voice amongst 7 billion-ish people on this planet. I do not believe for 1 minute that 7 billion people are all diametrically opposed to my standpoint or my viewpoint, etc. I imagine there is a lot of common ground. What I would like is a world where we pretty much have good news with the occasional accident. And I'm using the air quotes because I don't really want accidents, but accidents do happen. I want a world where we are a lot less centric on money being a metric to survival. Money should be and could be used and should be used as a token system in order to be able to have some luxuries, but the basics should be afforded to all. Basic nutrition, clean drinking water, shelter, and security. And that being that pretty much, it's not guaranteed, it never is, but you're pretty much as safe as your house is. You know you got food, you know you got water. People will still want to work. People will still want to assist. And rather than pigeonholing and putting people to work in created jobs making trinkets that actually the majority of human beings don't need, they may desire but they don't need, to establish and work on people who want to, who can, and they do anyway, but can assist in community projects that are a benefit to themselves and their community. The thing is I'm talking like on a global scale. There are so many things within the UK, United Kingdom, that honestly we have gone so far down the path of industrialization and so far down the path of so I'm thinking things like we could feasibly, I say, it's complex. It's always going to be complex. I've gone from big world issues to little world issues, but an example would be infrastructure. We in the United Kingdom have gone down the path of privatization and contract out privatization, which is, in my opinion, a method of taking money from the state and giving it to the private sector. We could potentially have a system where we take that back again under a public, but you see, all of those things, it's nuanced policies and politics. I guess I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, look, we need a world focus, and I think we need to come together on a global scale and focus and work, provide solutions. We also need to focus. So I guess when I watch this back, I must remind myself, I think I'm going to have 2 channels minimum, which one is going to be dedicated more to global issues and one's going to be dedicated more to local issues. I think that's probably the way forward. So this test is going to be, or is, about a little bit of sounding of the direction now of which both of those channels are going to go. Might keep it as one, but like preface it with global, local, countrywide, nationwide. The other thing which will probably come up within my videos is what's going on in my life, how I'm dealing with stuff. Pretty boring because we're all going through life, but maybe, just maybe, there'll be some nuggets where it's like, I'm really struggling with X, Y, Z. So I'll try, if I'm doing what's going on in my life, to categorize that, make sure it's in a playlist and properly indexed so it's easy to find when people are searching. Because I'd far rather that whatever I'm presenting here or on Facebook is easily it's indexed, easily findable, and potentially resources that people can use. Let's see where this goes. Anyway, what I used to do is love, light, positivity. No, yeah, I forget, but growth. I think I'm possibly going to stop doing the hand signals, although I might include, because they do tend to waft around. I think I'm going to incorporate just a pushing of an envelope of love, peace, solidarity, unity, and go from there. It's what I feel that we need as a human race. In terms of my own experience within life, I feel that we have moved away from community, whilst we still have communities, but there's so much, tribal communities. What am I getting at? What I witness and what I do myself is if I'm going to work for 8 hours a day, I will shut myself home, I'll close the door and shut the world out. And a lot of people do that. There's nothing wrong necessarily in that, but we then, I think we lose our, I mean, certainly for myself, I can only speak for myself, I guess. I lose a social interactions, which are important. But I see other people doing it as well. And the thing is, within the United Kingdom and in other countries, we have places called pubs, and there's nothing wrong with a pub, but the idea is you go there and you drink. And alcohol, to me, isn't necessarily the best drug in the world to be social on. Not really. I'm not saying there is a best drug. In fact, sobriety often is the best methodology, I think, behind social interactions. Yeah, and then in terms of that, there will be videos which I again, so there's a third channel. There's a wonderful guy by the name of Adam, and I can't think of his surname. If I remember, I will link down in the comments. Psych Substances, who has over the years basically catalogued his drug use. Not into he's meant as educational, but yeah, catalogued his drug use, his drug experience. There's Hamilton as well. I'm not here to promote drug use. That's not what I'm about. That being said, there will be times where I'm possibly coming on and doing I'm out of my head stream. So we'll get to each one of those as we get to them. That was a test. Each one of my streams, podcasts, whatever we're going to call them, are going to be roughly, I think 22 minutes is long enough. Between 10 minutes and 30 minutes, depending on the subject. One thing which I'm not doing at the moment, but I keep on meaning to do, is to actually have a script rather than just talking about what's literally coming down the train as it goes choo choo choo, and I'm talking about whatever it is that is coming out my mouth. And actually have some scripted sessions, or yeah, I'm trying to make sure that I'm using the right language. That should probably be an indication that this is not prepared for. I also, in this video, because I'm just trying to kill time now up to 25 minutes, I found myself in a place where I'm finding myself in agreement with people that have actually got audiences and are quite popular or have been popular. I'm not going to name drop. I'm not going to mention names. I want to put it forward that because in my mind, and I overthink stuff, I'm not doing that to try and piggyback off your established audience. My modus operandi is more because, right, possibly delusionally, I think I have some things which might add to a conversation. If we're having the conversation, I guess it already needs to be had. And yeah, I'm quite happy though, on the flip side of that, if my opinions or my messages get to a wider audience and they sit well, that's great. I don't necessarily want to be sitting in an echo chamber. Eventually, what I'd like is for, again, no name drops, people to come forward and say, "I'll tell you what, you might as well have my first name, Adam. I'll tell you what, Adam, Lincoln 18, but Adam, I'll tell you what, actually, you can use my name in your chat. You can talk about what we've discussed or what I've discussed on my Facebook page within my social media. I don't feel comfortable just doing that or name dropping without that kind, but that comes under the collaboration. Anyway, this was a test. So this is going to go now to Facebook, and hopefully people may pick up on my channel. Anyway, who knows? Look, love, collaboration, peace. What? 25 minutes, and this is another thing which I do. I went through the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and I'm in the 2020s. And when I was growing up, my generation seemed to be a generation of love, light, positivity, inclusion, inclusivity. And now the right wing seem to have got their hold on a lot of my generation. And I'm left there thinking, hold on a freaking second. When did the message change? Why are people around me changing to those political ideologies? What happened to love? What happened to unity? What happened to cooperation, collaboration? What happened to humanitarian? Where did this hate begin to propagate? And that's where I reach out to those people, again, no name drops, that I still include as friends, but do seem to be pushing a narrative of hate. And what I'm going to say on that, it's going to be 30 minutes now. What I'm going to say on that is the hatred is quite often towards Muslims, just as a general, and basically saying, oh, they're a religion of hate. It's like, what? They're a religion of hate? Have you heard yourself? Because fundamentally, Islam is not a religion of hate. I'm just putting it out there, right? No, it's, and so, yeah, I could get caught up on that. No, it's coming up to 30 minutes. This was a test. Love, light, positivity. I think that's a really easy way to, but I'm just shut up. Goodbye to you all. Bye for now.